Spider-Man PS4 was an amazing game brought to us by Insomniac where Peter Parker took center stage. But what if he was replaced by Miles Morales? Could Miles survive the events of Spider-Man PS4? Well, let's find that out in this theory/analysis video. I'll be taking Miles and placing him into the first Insomniac Spider-Man game to face off against every single villain. Now, he will only have access to the equipment and tools from the Spider-Man Miles Morales solo game, and will not be using anything from the second game that includes Peter, simply because one, I haven't played the game, so I wouldn't know exactly what he has access to. So he won't be getting access to anything from that side in the events of those games. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the video. Miles goes through a lot of growth during the events of his game, and by the end of it becomes a lot stronger than he originally was. While Peter and Miles were both bitten by spiders, Miles' radioactive spider bite in Marvel's Spider-Man granted him superhuman abilities and spider physiology, obviously. Many of these strengths are similar to the ones of the original Spider-Mans, including exceptional agility, durability, wall crawling, heightened reflexes, and many things along those natures. Uniquely, Miles also possesses venom powers, a form of bioelectricity that allows him for offensive and defensive techniques. Notably, his tolerance for bioelectricity was tested with the 300 kilojoule electrified barrier, and additionally, his camouflage power enables him to become virtually invisible. Miles is also a prodigy, displaying technological aptitude since he was a child, and he also co-developed a hacking app capable of remotely interfering with military-grade equipment that later also has applied this expertise to collaborating with Genki to design his own suits and equipment as Spider-Man. Even though Miles does come into his own during the span of his game, the villains from Insomniac Spider-Man 1 are still something that Miles would really struggle with. That's why I'm going to do a breakdown, just basically discussing each of the boss fights and telling you what I think would have happened and how I think Miles would have been able to deal with that. And we'll just run them off in order between the boss fights and everything else like that. Wilson Fisk is the first boss battle we have, so he will be the first that we have Miles go up against. Fisk has a large muscular frame, making him incredibly strong and resilient. During his battle with Spider-Man, he could use his bare hands to break stone, cave in deep pipes, and hurl men through brick walls. He also withstood concrete that Spider-Man threw at him and made a surviving fall attempt from several stories. Despite his frame, Fisk's agility and dexterity have also been honed by years of training. However, this would be an easy win for Miles due to the fact that he has already beaten Rhino on 2 different occasions in his own game. First being at the beginning of the game, while after Rhino had already beaten Peter, Miles takes him down when he unlocks his Venom Blasts. And secondly, when he was fighting Rhino again with the help of Finn, so that can only be taken at half speed since he did have help with this specific fight, that he was able to beat Rhino in that too. While Fisk might have strength, we already have seen Miles be able to take extreme beatings in his own game and make it out with him having minor to even great amount of damage, but him still be able to survive and make it through that. His hollow drones are also a very big part that would give him a very big edge against almost anyone that he's going to be fighting, period, because it gives him helping hands to have him fight while he's in combat with anybody, especially if they bring any other people to have him be overwhelmed in sheer force of numbers. Fisk might be able to manage to get a few hits on Miles, but that wouldn't be enough to end the fight. So there would be likely situations where there are some sort of struggles, but Miles' Venom Blast would be enough to most likely disorient Fisk and take him down. But after he deals with that, his next encounter would be with the Shocker. Shocker wears a full bodysuit that is equipped with vibroshock units designed to create high-pressure air blast. The suit allowed him to throw long-range punches with varying strength capable of even shattering concrete. He could also use the gauntlets to increase his agility by pointing them to the ground and activating the gauntlets. Using them, he could even launch himself through the air, traveling across rooftops. Even with all of this, it would still not be a struggle for Miles due to the fact that Shocker's main reliance is on his tech, and Miles would most likely be able to short-circuit that due to the help of his Venom abilities. We have seen Miles been able to absorb and release crazy amounts of energy, and even it taking Roxxon to create specialized suits specifically made to work against his Venom abilities to take him down, which Shocker wouldn't have access to. It would be a very hard deal for Shocker to even be thinking about taking Miles down in any specific format. Miles is just way too strong, and with the events that he's done in his own series, in his own game, he would easily be able to take out the Shocker just by short-circuiting all of his tech and really taking that down immensely quick. This series of events would really follow a good portion of all of the side bosses and side villains that we would be introduced to in the Spider-Man PS4 game. So I'm not going to really spend a majority of the rest of the time actually talking about each and every possible way that the fights would go and each and every fight. I will only from now on specifically be talking about the Sinister Six and just getting through those fights, because those are the real important fights that would have any real sway going on. So with that said, the next villain that Miles would actually have to go against would be a pair, Vulture and Electro. It's going on Vulture first. Vulture is a gifted mechanical engineer, having invented his own original flight suit with Dr. Octopus's aid and everything else like that. He built this new high-tech wingsuit with his own design and newly added compact jets and everything else, a lot of things like that. This gives him the ability to fly at high speeds, up to 95 miles per hour, and throw projectiles from his wingtips. And he also has enhanced strength and a lot of other abilities that gives him a lot of just big hacks and things along those natures. His age gives him a low stamina, on the other hand, due to the fact that we've seen him, while he was fighting with Spider-Man, have to regularly stop momentarily just to catch his breath. Electro, on the other hand, being a living electrical conductor, he is able to generate electrostatic abilities and energy of roughly 1,000 volts per minute. He can also store up to 1 million volts and discharge them like after he stored the energy in forms of lightning blast. He's also capable of traveling at high speeds by generating a massive field of electricity, and it can propel him through the air. It is theorized by Peter that if Electro was ever to reach his full potential, that he probably would even be a big threat for the Avengers themselves. So my main thing either way there, Miles would probably still be able to beat both of them. One, Vulture's main reliance, as I'm going to say again, is on tech, which would be worn out due to the fact that Miles' electricity would be able to basically just cancel that out and just short circuit that. Electro, on the other hand, while there might be some debate on how a fight between Miles and Electro would play out, I honestly believe that it would end up in Miles' victory due to him having the same abilities as Peter and being able to beat Electro most likely without even having to use any of his extra powers like the Venom abilities like that. I only say this due to the fact that even though that him and Electro both have electro-related powers and electricity-related powers, they would really just cancel each other out. They can both absorb and release energy, so it would really just get to the point where they're just throwing it right back at each other and nothing's getting done and nothing's happening whatsoever. It would just be pointless to even bother with that. So it would just be a fight where Miles would eventually win strictly out of his base abilities that he has as Spider-Man. After that, Miles would have to deal with another pair of villains, this being Rhino and Scorpion. I only say that, and I'm only bringing this up strictly due to the fact that This honestly wouldn't even be a very hard challenge for Miles. Yes, Rhino's suit grants him superhuman strength and makes him near impervious to harm, but Miles has already beaten Rhino in his own game and would easily be able to do the same thing again because this isn't a Rhino with the help of Roxxon. So he doesn't have the suit that Roxxon gave him. And even then, even though Scorpion, yes, wears a full body suit that vests his claws and a cybernetically controlled mechanical tail that has a poisonous stinger, I still feel like Miles would even still be able to handle this strictly due to the fact that, one, he has a tech-based suit. This has been a common, real thing going on for a majority of the villains that I have stated in this, because a good portion of Spider-Man's villains from the PS4 game had tech reliance on their suits and everything else like that. In almost any of these situations, Miles would just be able to use his Venom abilities to short circuit any of the technology that they use to subdue them way easier than he would normally be able to. Rhino isn't a threat in the first place because he was able to beat him in the beginning of his own game. But Scorpion having his own highly advanced suit, yes, might cause some abilities and some problems due to the fact that it's just a new obstacle Miles has to go against and Rhino's already just an annoyance. But it wouldn't be enough of a problem that Miles wouldn't be able to win just against those two, because he would be able to beat Rhino fairly quickly due to the fact that he's already fought him 2 times before. And Scorpion wouldn't be a big enough issue for him to be like, okay, I need to actually focus completely on him. But after Miles does finish dealing with those two, he would next have to deal with the real biggest threat on this entire roster, and the biggest threat of the entirety of Spider-Man PS4's entire villain catalog, Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative possesses the ability to generate and control highly destructive electrical negative energy, and usually uses this energy to project blasts powerful from his hands and charge up swords, combining his dark powers with his swordsmanship in battle. Mr. Negative also displays increased psychic abilities and uses them to really corrupt people, effectively bringing them under his control or even giving himself greater power, amplifying his victims' negative emotions. He basically has this form of mind control which allows him to create realistic illusions in his victim's mind, such as zombie-like holograms that create like he can use to be able to use them in a 2-person battle that he has been able to do multiple times. This would really be Miles' biggest threat due to the fact of him being able to use Miles' negative emotions against him. Miles has already had to deal with a lot of sad and negative things during his own game, specifically dealing with the fact of his best friend Finn already dying during his own game. So it would be a very hard struggle for Miles. But in the end, he would be able to pull out the win, in my opinion, due to the fact that he is a Spider-Man. He would be able to get past his negative emotions, and I would highly doubt that Miles be able to be subdued and have anything happen to him in this specific standpoint. It would be a struggle, yes, but he eventually would be able to most likely do some of the same things that Peter was able to do to beat Mr. Negative. While Mr. Negative would be a very, very difficult fight for Miles, Doc Ock would be the next person up on his roster. Doc Ock is obviously one of the smartest people in the entirety of Spider-Man PS4, and his knowledge is something that is easily one of the most terrifying things about him. He possesses a genius level intellect that allowed him to solve incredibly complex problems. Being able to develop his arms shows a great array of knowledge in engineering, physics, and robotics, along with neurotechnology and biomechanics. Even though the neural interface was dangerous when finished, it created this entire network that was able to achieve neurotransmissions and speeds under a nanosecond. But in all fairness, that is his biggest downfall when it comes to this fight once again. The fact that This is all dealing with engineering, robotics, and anything else along that fact. The fact that this deals with any kind of technology is the biggest downfall for any of these characters when they have to go against Miles. I talked about this with one of my friends and was asking him how he thought this would go if Miles was the one that fought Otto. But we both came to the conclusion that in any possibility, the fact that Otto has the neck chip and that really controls everything that he has to be dealing with, specifically with the arms. If Miles can even get anywhere near that, or even get his Venom Blast, even touch it, it would be over for that specific point in time because he would be able to short circuit it once again. Miles' abilities are just way too strong and way too staggering due to the fact of his Venom abilities. It just outclasses almost everything that any of these villains are really able to possibly be able to do. When it gets to discussing what would happen when they all go against Miles as the Sinister Six, it would really be a very funny situation in my opinion. I only say this due to the fact that if Miles unleashes one singular full Venom Blast that would be a wide-ranging attack, it would take out a good portion of all of the Sinister Six automatically due to the fact that most of them have some kind of technology-based suits or help that needs to be alive for them to be even do anything. The only real big threat that would be left would be Mr. Negative, which Miles would be able to beat on his own. So that really wouldn't be a problem anyways. So Miles would be able to beat the Sinister Six as a group only due to the fact of him having those specific abilities. It would be a very hard fought battle due to the fact that it is a 6 versus 1, but we have seen Miles be able to go against a large number of people and still be able to survive and push through it in a lot of the side quests of the actual game that we see. So it wouldn't be a very hard fought battle, but it would still be very challenging for Miles. But this is just my honest thoughts and a theory based off what I've seen in my experience playing these games. And this is just supposed to be a fun discussion. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think and what would have happened if Miles at any point in his career had to fight any of these villains. Until next time, I'll hope that you guys all love the video and stick around for when the next video does come out. But have a great day, guys. Peace.